Good evening, sir.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Great, that's nice.
Good evening, sir.
So we'll be starting in the next 5 minutes. I hope that's
Sure.
okay.
Oh, fine, perfectly all right. मैं
All
स्वेटर
right.
पहन के बैठ गया, ठंड लग रही थी, मैं तो आई एम कंफर्टेबल नाउ.
I request the CYL team to kindly make Sir the co-host so that he can share his screen.
दुआ साहब नमस्कार.
Sir, good afternoon. Namaskar. Great to see you here.
Thank you. Sejji, some very senior people with me are joining. Dua ji is one of my very senior colleagues from various walks of life, rich experience. So adding more of flavor to your discussions today.
Thank you, sir.
That's great, sir. Welcome, sir.
Lord ji.
Hi, should I wait for a couple of minutes, Soumya, or should I just begin?
I think we are good to go. Let's start.
Okay, so we have 41. Okay, I'll just start then. All right. A very, very pleasant good evening to all. I am Devanshi Mehta, a national team member of the United Nations 75 Initiative. I would like to welcome you all to another dialogue of the UN 75 dialogue series. Before starting the session, I would like to mention general rules for the attendees. We request you all to kindly keep yourselves on mute throughout the session. In case you have anything to share with the group or have any questions for the guests, please raise your hands during the Q&A session and we'll recognize you. During the session, you can send your questions to the host or the co-host personally on chat, and then we'll take up those questions during the Q&A segment further during this dialogue. My teammates will also be sharing a link to a feedback form in the chat box, so please make sure that after the dialogue you fill that up. Thank you so much for your patience. Now I would like to give you a brief about UN 75 and our team. The United Nations is celebrating its 75th anniversary this year, and to mark this occasion, the United Nations Secretary General himself has kicked off the largest ever global conversation to shape the future of UN and global governance. In this context, the Confederation of Young Leaders, CYL, has collaborated with the United Nations in contributing towards the UN 75 consultations and making the voice of young Indians heard. A national team was formed in the same pursuit. We, as the national team of UN 75, are holding various events to take views of the people across India. The report of all these events will be sent to the United Nations itself. Now, I would like to call my teammate, Sehaj, to share some information about SDGs and SDG 4 in particular, which talks about quality education. So, over to you, Sehaj.
Thank you, Devanshi. A very good evening to everyone. So, as we all know that the Sustainable Development Goals were recognized and started by the nations of the United Nations in 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals are a collection of 17 interlinked goals designed by the United Nations to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. Quality education is the foundation of sustainable development and therefore of the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Targets for 2030 call for ensuring the completion of primary and secondary education by all boys and girls and guaranteeing equal access to opportunities for access to quality technical and vocational education for everyone. The theme of today's dialogue is very different, a very holistic one. In compliance with this UN 75 dialogue on achieving other SDGs through SDG 4, meet our guest speaker, Dr. Rakesh Malhotra. Dr. Rakesh Malhotra was an assistant general manager at NABARD, country's premier bank for agriculture and rural development. He has also worked with UNDP as state head of Madhya Pradesh and has played an instrumental role in preparing the state's vision document for the year 2030. He was national lead financial literacy in the National Rural Livelihood Mission, Ministry of Rural Development. Having worked with innumerable government undertakings and ministries, Dr. Malhotra has also served as the managing director of Rajasthan Skill Mission. Words may fall short while counting his number of achievements and his contribution towards nation building. He is also the founder of Innovations in Development and Empowerment Alternatives, IDEA, which is a non-profit aimed at developing research methodologies, paper writings, proposal writing, and working papers in the youth of the country. Having worked personally under Sir, I would like to highlight the fact that despite achieving various awards and laurels, he is extremely down to earth and an example for many of us to look up to. And it's my personal experience that I have learned many of skills in the field of policy making, data analysis, and especially an approach towards life and nation building from Rakesh sir. Now I would like to request sir to kindly take over and brief us on the topic that is today's theme for the dialogue, achieving other SDGs through SDG 4. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Sehaj. I will first of all like to thank Sehaj particularly and CVL for giving me this opportunity to interact with all the young minds of the nation. And I find there are a lot of people of my age or my wisdom and my experience also there, which I've met in them. So I'd like to thank all my friends, colleagues, and relatives, and the young people over here to spend some time today evening with us. Thank you. I've been given the right to share the screen. Okay. So this is a PPT which I prepared for today evening, that what we'll be discussing about. And I'll be taking this presentation in 3 phases. The first will be on SDGs. The second will be on the national education policy. And finally, the convergence of SDG 4 with other goals of the UN. So going further, let me first of all start with what is SDG. As our father of the nation said, if we want to reach the real peace in the world, we should start educating children. So obviously, education is the base for the entire mankind development and peace. Okay, now I'll just take you briefly through what the SDGs were, how they came up and how they were modified. So just bringing the history forward, we earlier had MDGs, which were there from 1st January 2000 to 31st December 2015. From 1st January 2016, SDGs have come into play till the 31st December 2030. So there are 15 years time span. And obviously the question anybody would ask who is new to SDG at least. So what was the need of moving from FDGs to SDGs and so on and so forth. So we'll discuss that in a small brief slides coming on. First of all, let me tell you that what happened with MDG was that we did find, we means UN system did find they were not totally holistic. They were not properly drawn in consultation with the various strata of the society. Probably many of the nations were left out. Then extensive dialogue took place, and you had to conduct the largest consultation program in the history. Please mind you, largest consultation program in the history. Probably COVID-19 would be the next consultation process which is going on, which took place in Rio, and they constituted some working groups. So working groups were constituted, and they gave their findings in 2014 that we need to have 17 core subjects to take the things further. Here again, I would like to emphasize that there were no less than 11 thematic discussions across the globe and 83 national consultations which took place. And again, I am told by my UN colleagues that biggest door-to-door survey ever undertaken in the mankind was for this SDG system. Now, this is a slide briefly tells you what is the difference between MDGs and SDGs. I think if you closely go through that, we can find out that SDGs are more comprehensive. They have taken into account what we left out in MDGs, and they are a little more focused and pinpointed for enabling every government in the globe to plan their strategies properly. So things have been well differentiated so that planning and execution can take place better. Now, just three pillars on which the entire SDG movement is there defined. I'd like to share. The first one is universality. What does a UN system means by universality? It says, implies that the goals and targets are relevant to all governments and actors, that it is applicable across the entire 197 countries of the globe, which are the members of the UN system. Yes, they may differ from country to country. Local conditions would be there, but yes, it is universal. Everybody is committed to achieve something particular. Then another call which the UN system gave was no one has to be left behind. The second pillar of the entire SDG movement is the principle of no one left behind. Advocates countries to go beyond averages and see that everybody in their envelope are taken care of. If we are going to eradicate poverty, it should be in totality. Nobody has to be left out. So this was the second pillar. And finally, we call of integration, where again the UN system thought there has to be a need for all social factors of integration, that is social, economic growth, and environmental protection. Unless they are integrated, things may not click. We will not be getting the proper results. I would further add that in my context, in today's context, integration can also be called as convergence, which we'll discuss later on. So anybody who understands these three pillars now understands all the entire 17 goals very well clearly. Then we have taken pains to understand the Government of India and what all the state governments are doing. The Government of India, which is implementing the SDG through Niti Aayog, has segregated all the 17 goals into 4 compartments. They call it social, environmental, economic, fostering peace, and partnership. They are the 4 compartments, and you can see they have labeled the various goals in that. And accordingly, they have linked the concerned ministries of the Union government to take care of these responsibilities. So this is just for sharing what the Government of India is trying to do. Now coming to the second section, which is more important today for all of us, especially the youth which are sitting in front of me, that is national education policy. And as our former president, Dr. Abdul Kalam said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Yes, I agree with it. Yes, if we are educated, we are more sober, more sensible, and we can really do wonders with our success. So new education policy, if many of you have already read, is really a major change in our thought process in education system and in our Indian history. Probably something which I was totally surprised to see, and hopeful that things are going to change for our education system in the country. And if they change, probably the entire spectrum of the national development will undergo a change. So some few highlights which I'm sharing with you is, the new education policy stipulates that they would like to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio by 2030. That is a very, very, very ambitious target, but good. If it is achieved, I think India would have achieved one major milestone in its development. Then they are also trying to make it more pragmatic in the sense that, yes, The schooling, which starts from after 3 years, will be in the 12 years span, where children from 3 to 18 years will be taken care of. First 5 years will be known as the foundation phase. The next 3 years will be known as preparatory phase. The next 30 years will be known as secondary phase, and finally the last 4 years will make you ready for the education. Again, increase in GR in higher education, including vocational education, is expected to reach to 50% by 2035. If this is done, I think we'll be meeting many of the international challenges. And again, national education policy expects that there would be addition of 3.5 crore new seats to a higher education system in the nation, which is called for. I think that is what we need for our future children's. Now, just to touch about what is the schools and what are the curriculum they would be addressing is, yes, I've discussed, they have now come out with 5+3+3+4 mode, where from third year onwards till 18, they have made it very clear that how the student has to go about. Here again, they have made the point that yes, subjects are not to be compartmentalized. Subjects have to be made open. We have to interact and make things more conducive to the local children over there. Entire content of the education system is to undergo a change. If you have gone through the education policy, they feel we are in the need of changing the entire content syllabi of our school children. They want to bring in more of the local flavor and our historical plus points in the content. Then again, there is a major shift taking place where they say there should be no differentiation between the curriculum, extracurricular, or co-curricular activities. Everything under the spectrum is one. The child is being groomed. He has to take care of all the spheres of his life, no one thing. And again, the national new policy stipulates that current affairs would be taught. Something nice. From the very day one, the children would be exposed to something of that kind. And I know that you are really aware that major learning in a child takes place till the age of 6 or 7 years. So if we are able to imbibe these things in the child in the very beginning, probably we are doing the right job for his development. Then we also are taking care that the teachers whom we are going to who will be the real players, who will be real heroes for this entire transformation, their system also has to undergo a real metamorphosis. They have to be taught, they have to be selected, they have to be sustained, and they have to be encouraged so they really become a good teacher. And their qualification experience will be gradually and continuously be improved upon. That is what the new education policy states. Now, coming to the colleges, which I think all of you are, or you'll be still there for a few more years. Let us see what are the challenges for the colleges or higher education system in the nation. Currently, it is said that India has about 40,000 colleges. 40% of these run only on single program. Sorry to say, it's sad to note, yes, only 40%, that not only, as good as 40% of these colleges run on only single program. And over 20% of colleges have enrollment below 100. So it is quite ironical for everybody to see where does our education system in higher levels rate is there. Then we also feel that there are too many silos. Too much of compartments are there. Moving from one compartment or silo to another has become a real problem in today's education system. We need to bring down those silos. We need to make the ground open so the students can enjoy whatever they feel like. Then we also feel that today's education system is not career oriented, that career management issues have to be built in and seen, that how can the education system really help the student, guide him, nurture him, mentor him to be a real, to take up a real career in his life. One of the major things which this national education policy has been speaking time and again, probably in almost every page which I've read, it says research, research, and research. There is total lack of research in our nation. I think you would agree with it. And there is no mechanism to seed research at the state colleges where 93% of all students in higher education are enrolled. So you can see that almost 93% in our nation, the students are not exposed to research methodologies, systems. I'm not talking of research of something which we call of in a chemistry lab or a physics or chemistry. It is called research in any field, be it social field, be it mathematics, be it science, and so on and so forth. So research is something which they are emphasizing a lot and which I feel is the need of the hour. Then we also the government of India contemplates that aims GERE to reach 50% by 2035. Currently, it is 25%, which I already said. One additional data which I came across was agricultural universities in total comprise of 9% of the total universities in the nation. Of the total universities, agricultural universities have 9% of the share, whereas their enrollment is less than 1%. On the other hand, we in India still say that we are an agriculture dominant economy, but our participation in higher education or science and so on and forth is lacking totally. So some more points which are very, very interesting for all of us to share on the new education policy, which was designed and drafted after a lot of consultation for 4 years. Almost, I think I'm told, lakhs of panchayats and so many people were consulted before the government of India published this in March 2020. The first is single stream high education institutes will be phased out. Now there will be nothing like IITs or IIMs and so on and so forth. They have to be multi-phased, multidisciplinary institutions. In coming times, every institution has to be multidisciplinary. It cannot be specialized or having stress on only one subject. The other decision which has been taken is the present nomenclature of deemed to be university, affiliating technical university, and so on and so forth will be totally replaced by one word university, which will be required to fulfill certain criteria as per the norms laid down. Again, it has been emphasized that higher education institutions will focus on research and innovation. And by setting up startup incubation centers, technology development centers, greater industry, academic linkages, and so on and so forth. So research, innovation again comes into the limelight. Then they also very clearly define that there will be regulators for this entire system for the country. The regulations would be, NHERC will be doing the regulations. Accreditation will be done by National Accreditation Council. Funding will be taken care by Higher Education Governing Council, and academic standards will be stipulated by GEC under the overall arching umbrella of Higher Education Council of India. So this will be the new setup of the education system in near future. They also have stipulated, and they have felt, and I feel that's very nice, that education delivery in the nation has been very erratic. Some places, some districts, even some states do not have good institutions, colleges, or to even teachers to speak about. So they want to propose that special education zones, say it be for tribals or for SCSTs or any other disadvantaged group regions of the country, where the government will be making a special effort to take care of. And again, there will be no hard separation amongst the curricular, extracurricular, co-curricular, arts, humanity, and sciences, or between vocational or academic streams. As our ancient systems had told us, there were no less than 64 arts before anybody in our past used to be called as literate. Probably that is being brought back in our system today. Moving to the next slide. Now, this is what could be of little interest to you. The system of award of degrees is also proposed to undergo a change. Let us start with the undergraduate degree, which will be either a 3-year or a 4-year course. If under graduation, you study only for 1 year, then you get a certificate and go off and do some work, a job or whatever, maybe it's fine. You earn some credits for that. But if you do your undergraduate for 2 years, then you get a diploma. And so you do your undergraduate for 3 years, you get a bachelor's degree. Now, coming to the master's degree, they have said that those who have completed 3 years bachelor program and a 2-year program on research, they will be counted as master's program eligible. Meaning in total, they are trying to say 3 + 2, 5 years of college going has to be there, of which the research is a very basic fundamental which they want to insist upon. The other option for master degree will be for students completing 4-year bachelor's program with research, there could be a 1-year master's program. And finally, they have also given an option. There may be an integrated 5-year bachelor of research program. So these are the new sets of outlays of degrees which the government of India wants to propose. And for the PhD, they say, until unless you have done a master's degree or a 4-year bachelor's degree with research, you will not be eligible to be admitted in PhD, and the MPhil will be discontinued. So these are new phases which are taking place, and research being the core at every step. And now touching upon the vocational education, I'm very pleased to see and note that vocational subject, vocational education, vocational issues have found due weightage in the new national education policy of the nation. they say it will be imbibed from the very school itself till the colleges, so that you can do your masters in, say, carpentry or electrician or mason work or whatever it may be. So from the very beginning, vocational issues will be there and for an option for any student to take up and study. Interesting thing which Government of India has again proposed is, and I strongly advocate for the same, is setting up of National Research Foundation. As you know, as already shared with you, that we means Indians are very poor at taking up research. So our R&D investment, which was a little better in 2008 to extent of 0.84% of the GDP, has come down to 0.69% in 2014. Similarly, 70% of the applications from NRIs are compared to only 10% come from the developed countries. And the number of researchers, which is an important yardstick to measure the literacy of any nation, says that in India, per lakh of population, we have only 15 researchers as compared to 111, that is 111 in China and 423 in USA and 825 in Israel. Mark you can see for yourself that how much research is emphasized in Israel. So what the Government of India is saying, that by setting up a National Research Foundation, they will catalyze and expand the research and innovation in the nation. NRF will be granted annually no less than 20,000 crore rupees. This will be used for taking up research, taking up establishing better Am I audible now? Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay.
I request the participants to keep themselves muted.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this National Research Foundation is going to be the key player in future, where research is going to be the buzzword for our new education system. They have earmarked special money, amounts, and policies and strategies for this particular issue. I'm not able to move to the next slide. Something, Sahaj?
Yes, sir. Just a second.
I think sharing has been stopped, or what? You are.
So let me check. Give me 1 minute, please, sir.
I think, yeah, please.
Thank you.
I think Sir will have to be made the co-host again.
Sir, you can check it again, please.
Okay. Okay. Yes, so I'm back. All technical things. So, as I emphasized, the National Research Foundation is going to give a new direction for research in our nation. Now, there is also emphasis on teachers and training and teachers and teaching. Okay, what they say is, what the policy says, and for the first time, I'm very happy to see that a due emphasis has been laid upon the teachers to become competent enough, and also to keep on regularly and gradually improving their skills and their other knowledges to be a really competent guru or a teacher. So what it says is all teacher education will happen in multidisciplinary institutions and will be an integral part of the higher education system. Again, multidisciplinary. Mind you, it won't be a teacher for physics or teacher of biology or teacher of economics, but yes, they would have some specialization, but probably exposed to other disciplines also. Again, research-based teacher preparation will be taking place. So all the teachers who are going to get the B.Ed henceforth will be required to take up research, and all fresh PhD candidates must take courses in teaching. So anybody who wishes to pursue PhD in the country has to take up teaching as one of their necessities. So you see very well how the government is gelling the things, where on the one part, the teacher has to do the research. On the other angle, the researchers have to do the teaching. So that's nice thing which the government is contemplating for the system. And then, which is a very interesting, is that एक बार आप teacher बन गए तो कहानी खत्म नहीं. The continuous professional development of teachers at the Department of Education would be the core and crux of the government. They will take care that yes, we should always be able to imbibe the teachers with the new and the latest tools and techniques so that their teaching becomes more proficient. As I already said, that promoting vocational education will be another serious thrust which they want to take up from the very beginning. Multidisciplinary education and multi-entry oblique exit points. Mind you, they are giving you options that you can go after 1 year of bachelor or 2 years or something of that kind. You can go after 1 year of master's. So always you will be earning some credits. There will be national credit scores which will be collected, and you can encash this as and when you take up the system. Yes, and they also intend to introduce a lot of scholarships so that the students are encouraged that to take up good studies, and scholarships will have more focus on the excluded strata of our society, especially coming from scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, tribals, women, and other issues. Finally, talking about vocational education, I believe this is the real solution to the nation today. What I feel is that we are not in position to give job to each and every person of the country. But if he is imbibed with vocational education, probably he can not only be his own entrepreneur, he can employ many other things also. So just to have a peep at what the status is, in India, less than 5% of the workforce that is in the age group of 19 to 24 has received vocational education. That too, for the last 10, 12 years, the government has emphasizing too much on vocational training. Still, we are less than 5%, vis-a-vis when compared to USA, where their population gets 52% of the population gets training on vocational education. Germany has a credible percentage of 75%, and South Korea tops the most with 96%. So you can see very well how the South Korea, with almost all of their people technically or vocationally qualified, are able to contribute to the better earnings and economy of the nation. So a fresh approach to the vocational education by adding it in a curriculum is already thought of. Here again, they have also thought of that, yes, they will have to integrate the things with ITIs, polytechnics, KVKs, local industries, NGOs, and large number of trainers will have to be drawn. Yet the good point is, the already government is thinking that how do we impart vocational education by taking the local industries on board, because real need would be practical training, which the local industries can give. They are also coming up with an option. There could be part-time apprenticeships, and skill trainings can be supplemented with education at school. Central and state governments will be spending a lot of amount on vocational trainings in the schools. That's what all emphasizes that yes, the government, not only at the union level, but at the state level, we seized off how to generate more employment, not wage employment, self-employment through vocational training. Now I'll come to the last section, which Sage wanted me to say that how does SDG 4 merge or converge with the other goals of the SDG. And just to take a quote from Albert Einstein, education is not learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Yes, I totally agree with that. Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. That is what I believe a role of a teacher or a mentor should be. Until unless I train the mind of the student to think, probably I'm missing the bus. So let us see. This is a jargon, just all 17 goals have been put in front of you. And each goal is important in itself. Just to say that these goals are independent of each other will not be a correct thing. And all those friends who have been working in UN system, they know very well that yes, everything is interlinked. How specifically they are, I think 1 or 2 slides down, we'll be able to discuss them. For example, if you have to address the goal number 1 and 2 in the left square box, which I'm spelling out, the Department of Agriculture has to work with the collaboration of Department of Rural Development in a meaningful so that the real poverty gets reduced. Similarly, if we have to address the goal number 4 or 8 or 9, so there has to be multidisciplinary approach. Convergence has to take place between Department of School Education, Department of Technical Education, with Department of Industry, Skill, and so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is, sir, please be very clear what does convergence means. Today, the irony of the fact is our governance system, our implementation structure of the government is in silos. We do not talk to each other department in any state. It's very sorry to say one department will be thinking on implementing his own programs with own schemes, with own budgets, but that department will not be discussing the same with the other department. That's what the sad part of our implementation is. But convergence is the key word to it. My experience of almost 40 years of experience shows that India is not short of funds. It is the implementation where do we lack. I think, and many of my colleagues and many of my seniors who are sitting with me over here would agree to that it is execution where we need to be more professional. So I'll take you to one of the states of the nation where I was head of the UNDP for a couple of years, and I had done a wonderful study on SDGs because SDG had been just launched, and I was the person who wrote the vision document for the state of Madhya Pradesh. If anybody of you knows what does a vision document means, it means the entire the state story has to be written and projected for the next 15 years. Do you have any guess that how many schemes or program does any state have in the country? Just any state, just pick it, Uttar Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan. Do you have any idea how many schemes or how many programs would be running? Just to cut short, I'll tell you. In Madhya Pradesh, we had 1,500 schemes being implemented by the government. What did I say? 1,500 schemes. And so forth would be for the different states also. They may not be 1,500, it would be 1,400 or 1,600. Just imagine a state government implementing so many schemes. But where do they lead to? How do they implement? How do they plan? That is something all of us to ponder upon. So what effort I did for this presentation today is, I saw that let's see what are the goals and what are the direct departments which will be responsible for that SDG. For example, I find for SDG goal number 1, eradication of poverty, there are no less than 17 direct departments of the government of India and government of Madhya Pradesh. And mind you, I forgot to tell you that government of Madhya Pradesh has 104 different departments, implementing 1,500 schemes in one particular state. So just to give you some picture that how the state governments function, the same is true for the central government also. So for addressing the issue of poverty eradication, 70 departments are directly responsible. There could be some other also, where they are implementing no less than 46 schemes. Now this is a question, how does one support other? That's lacking. Let's go to the goal number 2, zero hunger. It again says there are 70 departments and they have no less than 68 different schemes. So the list is long. This is just to bring before you that almost every goal has many departments addressing on it. You know very well that our union government or state governments are not drawn as per SDGs. They are drawn as per their own thought processes and needs and requirements. So there are departments and there are many departments, but how they address the SDG goals, this is what I've tried to do some research and bring before you. And I said 104 departments, 1,500 schemes that have been studied and brought over here. The next slide is also almost same for the 17 goals. And I find that if you come to the last goal number 17, partnership for the goals, it has no less than 7 different departments working for the partnerships. Can you imagine? Different partnerships के लिए हमारे पास मध्य प्रदेश सरकार में 7 विभाग हैं. Why can't we have one? But we do have 12 different schemes. So how does this click? It's a question for everybody to ponder upon. Finally, I did some more research and brought before you, and I think that is what the sage wanted, that let us see the SDG goal number 4. So this is SDG goal number 4, which says we have to give quality education, right? So quality education, there are different departments. On the left, I have mentioned the different departments of the government. They are real departments. For example, Ayush, higher education, medical education, new and renewable energy, scheduled tribe welfare department, school education, so on and so forth. And then there are certain schemes which I have mentioned on the columns, and try to see that which scheme of which department is directly converging or helping the quality education to be achieved. So again, there is multidisciplinary action which has to be done. And what I would have liked is that the principal secretary or AC of the Department of Education should have said further, taken the look at these things and made an effort to converge all these things together so that we can collectively achieve the goal of real good education to the ground. So you see, it is very complicated. In theory, SDG goals and convergence may be a little easy, but to implement things in any state is a real Herculean task. I did a little more research for benefit of this session today. I am coming out with a slide where we have specifically taken up that head of department code. There is, if you go to the budgets of the state governments, which you may find it in their websites, you will see there will be a HOD code, then there will be scheme code, and they have also brought out the different schemes. Here again, I have done the effort and seen that, for example, HOD code number 31 pertains to agriculture and farmer welfare. It has some schemes which I mentioned over here. They pertain to different goals. So what are the different goals which they can address? They are goal number 2, 4, 8, 10, and 12. mind you, please, in order to give allocation to these goals, I had to read, or my team had to read through each and every scheme which has been listed here. So until you list, study, examine, do some permutation and combinations, then now you'll come to know that how much which scheme is contributing to which goal. And I had also made an effort to see what are the government budgets allocated for the same, but I have not brought it over here because I thought that might complicate the process in your thinking. So just simply to share with you, how can the SDG systems be integrated? How can SDG 4 quality education be achieved? So this is what we have tried to work out for you. And finally, to give a more example, so that continues with this, all different schemes, head of departments, various schemes of theirs, and how do they impact which goal is mentioned in this slide. And finally, especially for SDG 4, which you said you wanted to know and discuss, that how does it converge with various other efforts. I will just bring the convergence of SDG goal, which is specifically mentioned by the Department of Education for their efforts, that how they would work through with different departments and so on and so forth. Similarly, all departments had been asked about a year back that how do they work for various SDGs to bring about a qualitative success. This is just an example which I'm sharing before you, and they are real government examples which I brought forward. So secretariat and directorate level, the Department of Education has thought that they will convert with three major departments, that Adult Education Department, State Project Office of the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, SERT, and Rajya Shiksha Abhiyan. Then they say that they would like to converge through Samagra Shiksha portal, that is another IT tool which is available in the Department of IT. There are 38 types of scholarships. Just imagine, sir, 38 different types of scholarships of 9 departments being given to the various students, and everything is going in its own solo efforts. Now, this is where the department steps in and says, yes, we need to make an effort to see how things can converge. Then there is also a proposal by this particular department that how they would like to converge through education portal. School education department has its own portal. Public instruction has its own portal. So tribal department has its own portal. So for a particular information for any student to gather, I think he has to visit 5-6 different portals, then only able to get it. So again, the government was thinking on it, that how these things can be better off. And another example is Panchayati Raj institutions. That is the basis of our governance in India today. Panchayati Raj are, PRIs are the real bodies of execution at the ground. And they do want to converge with this because the construction of the schools and so on and so forth are through panchayats. So yes, they have to do some convergence with them. Then only they will be able to see how education system is built. Then the toilets and drinking water in the schools is another necessity. So the government, that department has to work with Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan or Panchayati Raj department or Department of Public Health Engineering and so on and so forth. So these are examples I've dug out for a better understanding of all my audience today, that at the ground level, if any SDG has to be supported, it has to be supported through multiple efforts of multiple departments. It cannot be single. If it does so, we'll be continuing in the same league of slow and steady. This again, I've just listed out other efforts. For example, the department says that we will have to work with for civil works with various Manrega or MP Lads program. They also intend to have a convergence with UNICEF, where teachers training will also take place, convergence with NGOs, secondary education, school systems, and again with national, international agencies. So this is what I think I would like to share with you, that how the convergence system or integration, which is probably lacking in the country today, has to be made more systematic, more strong, and more effective. I speak on behalf of, as a chairman idea, as said, that we have promoted a small NGO trust where we are working on these kinds of services which we want to support the institutes, students and other people who are interested. So we're offering something like a course on research methodology, that how to do research. Yes, I think many people in the country do not know how to do research. And I find that hardly any institute in the country, hardly any college, coaching center, institute does teach any student, especially undergraduate and graduate, on this aspect. There might be some institutions which do for PhD and MPhil, but that's different. Then we are also offering one course on drafting a project proposal. I'll not go into detail of these. If you wish to, you can go to my website and see how we can help you. We're also offering some internships, and we are offering some academic counseling. That's something what we are just thought about after getting so much of feedback from all of you from the ground. And finally, right now we are looking for the campus ambassadors, again, which has been circulated. Probably you can see at a website, or Sage can, if he can help me out on this account, will be wonderful. That how do we want to convey our word, our message, our effort to the student community at large in the nation. So this is a small presentation which I wanted to share with you. And I believe for a sustainable development, integration of the people for the prosperity, to have a peace and partnerships and planet have to come together, then only things can click. That's all from my side. Thank you. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the detailed explanation of the SDGs, sir. So as the part of the UN 75 dialogue, we have a few set of questions for you. So I would like to proceed with the questions. Sir, like as you rightly know that it's been approximately 1/3 of the time frame like that the global community has passed. So, sir, how far has India marched in terms of SDGs? Like also we have been struck hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, and there have been many obstructions in the parts of the country. So do you think that India is able to like fight those challenges effectively? And what path of the future for the next decade will India probably adopt?
So should I answer one by one?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I think good question, Sej. As you know very well that this SDGs were to start from the 1st January 2016 and they are to end by 31st December 2030. And we already are in the middle or end of the 2020. I'm very sorry to point out that real planning on this exercise in India started in 2019 itself only. The government of India started making a program. Niti Aayog came up with a series of meetings with all the states where I also attended something. And ultimately when all the states were required to prepare a vision plan, once the vision plan for every state had to be prepared, and then the country had to prepare a vision plan based upon all the states. And then everything was handed over to Niti Aayog for execution and monitoring. Then we have a department of MOSPI, that is Ministry of Statistics and Project Implementation, which is supposed to keep track of how the SDGs are taking place. So yes, vision documents have been prepared, but if you allow me to say, there are, I think, the political priorities overtake the things what the SDG says. So it has taken time, first of all, to understand. It was a new thing. You won't believe that I had to take 1.5 years for all the departments officials to understand what is an SDG. So the same was the story with many other states. We are about 2 to 3, rather 3 years behind the schedule. But yes, some goals we might be able to achieve. Given the COVID into place, there could be some serious challenges. But yes, the government is working. They may not be working directly by saying, yes, we are working on SDG 4 or climate change or 13 or 16. But yes, working is taking place. Some better planning has taken place. And I am hopeful things should turn out in the near future. Yes, we are late. That's what I agree.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for answering that question. So I have a question for you. Well, Delhi in itself, the capital of this country, consumed more marijuana than the entirety of Amsterdam last year. So over the past few years, there is an increase, of substance abuse among the youth, right? So how do you think that we can fight this drug menace through SDG 4? And we also wanted to know if the government is doing enough, or is it still an issue under the carpet?
I think very pertinent, very good question. To start with, this is an issue under the carpet. I'll agree with that. And it is one day this is going to bust out like anything. And probably this is under the carpet in the sense that nobody's taking cognizance of that. And please contact me after this seminar. At Bhopal, I had worked for 2 years on substance abuse among the students of the Bhopal district. And it was interesting to see that the government was not sensitive enough. We did gradually came out with a very tangible program. The first thing was to sensitization. Until as we sensitize and the students and their parents and their teachers, what is substance abuse? Bhai isse kya nuksan hone wala hai? They will not understand. So pehle to wo batana padta hai. But Devashika, what I feel is we did that for 1.5 years. Ultimately, there have to be rehabilitation beds. I hope you understand what does it mean. So until as we have adequate number of rehabilitation beds, all our effort was down the drain. I worked for 1.5 years. I means I and my team, the UN system we had over there. We worked for a long period We came out with we could cull out with a lot of the boys and girls and students. We worked with the police department also, but the end result was nil. We couldn't have a lot of rehabilitation beds, so students were left out, and again they went into the drug circle. Police also has done it as a showcase method. आज भगा दिया, पिटाई कर दी, डंडा मार दिया, कल को फिर आ गया. So the government is not serious on this. I'm really sorry to say so, but yes, it is a serious issue. I think this is one of the important things which the nation has to take care of.
Rightly said, sir. Like, absolutely, I agree with you. Like, India itself has a large population of the youth in the throughout the world and across different nations. And if we aren't able to like successfully use the potential of a youth, then we'll like considerably like lose an opportunity to become the global power by 2030. So like, so my like next question is that, so as you see that the world has been struck by COVID-19, and also so like in the like year 1918, there was the onset of a new pandemic like Spanish flu. So like over the past century, so do you think that any considerable change has taken place, how the cities are being planned or designed, and how this challenge of sustainable cities is being met? So because when we look at Mumbai and like in fact the capital city of Delhi, we see that when there's a heavy downpour and the drains get clogged and there's a like outflow of water so in the cities and a long row of traffics. So how do you think that we are tackling this issue and how we are trying to build more and more sustainable cities?
Yes, I think goal number 11, probably SDG goal number 11 deals with the sustainable cities. And it is been thought that unless we do have sustainable cities in terms of real good infrastructure, things will not click. So you might recall that when this new India government came in the power, they had announced that 100 smart cities would be built in the nation. And they had a bid, it came out with the bank, right, a lot of fanfare, a lot of things have to be done. Now, ultimately, the modification of the city was to be done by the state governments. So there again, the politics came into place, where the government of that particular state was not in tune with the NDA. They said, we'll not do this. Somewhere they said, okay, we'll do that, but they didn't have funds to earmark for this thing. Somewhere they did not have funds, they did not have the technology to go forward, and so on and so forth. So again, it is all on the priority. For example, in one state, you keep on changing the CM every 2 years. The priority is lost. Sustainable cities becomes the last thing. For I feel cities, not only that, we had a lot of research on this issue in Madhya Pradesh. I feel says, why not to make at least a city safe city? आज क्या हमारे शहर सेफ हैं? अब तो सस्टेनेबल तो चलिए बात की बात है. Are you able to get your ambulances right in time into the hospital? Are our female girls able to be easily walk in the night? Are we able to get our water supply of good quality in our houses? Do we have a power coming to me as and when I require? Do we have infrastructure for the say internet? In Germany, I am told that internet is their fundamental right, and here we don't have the physics. So, पहले हम cities को safe बनाएं, and then we do it. We do have good schemes. I was able to see lay hands on 1 or 2 good plans of smart cities, but again, it is a lack of the willpower. Again, not the funds, but again, the willpower of the government. The prioritization of the government was not towards this thing that has come back. So I didn't see, or at least in my knowledge, I stand to be corrected. Not much work has been done on this.
Right. Right. So since you mentioned about the safety of women and prioritizing safer cities than better or quote unquote smart cities, I have a question. As a student of sociology, I understand that gender studies or gender sensitization is so important. Do you think inclusion of gender studies and gender sensitization as a major subject to be taught in schools would be a good idea? And if so, could you please elaborate on that?
I think you're putting me into fix, because that is my favorite subject too. And I've written too many articles and too many books and too many things on that. So just to speak for 2 minutes will be very difficult. And only I think 2 days back, I shared a very important research which I did on SDG 5 with Sage. Probably please share that paper with her. See, what I believe is gender means 50% of the human population in the nation or the world. Until and unless we take them along, nothing can happen. That is for sure. So we have to be sensitive toward this need. And gender empowerment and all the issues are very complex, very, I think you all people are in, I think, major cities. come and see the situation of a woman at the ground level. I think many of my friends will vouch for it. Go and see into the cities of Bihar or UP or where even for what happens, you can't believe upon it. So yes, gender has to be the crux and core of everything. How much weightage we have to give, that is there. We do have different departments and ministries working on it, but how effective it is, that's again, probably we need to have a different full discussion on this. I can share so many practical feedback from the ground, how things have matched, not matched, what people are doing, some wonderful work is happening, something, but macro situation of things have to be there. Not only the policy, again, execution is not sufficient.
Rightly said, sir. So, so what do you feel about like SDG 5 only talks about gender equality and it specifically mentions women empowerment. So, what about gender inclusivity? Like, it doesn't mention anywhere about LGBTQ community and the other binary genders. So how do you think that the upcoming decade will like fight that challenge? Due to like in many countries there are like movements for recognizing the rights of third genders. So how do you think, sir, that we'll tackle this challenge?
When I say gender empowerment or equality, something I don't mean only male, female, something of that kind, not the one sex. It is genders of all aspects have to be taken into account. We have to first of all understand and appreciate. Again, say if you go into that paper which I just shared with you, I have come out with each and every problem for each and every target which is given in SDG. Then I've also defined then what could be the possible solutions. I've also made pains and shared with you that what are the successful examples already floating in the nation. Why can't we learn things from those places? Why can't we be a little more receptive to something which is going on? So we have to take place. Yes, gender doesn't mean only women. It is not so. I agree with you. It has to be there. Yes, now things are opening up. People are getting aware. Things are moving now. I'm quite confident it will not be biased on particular sex. It will be taking care of all the requirements.
All right, sir. So, moreover, so when we view at the situation that occurred after the lockdown, there was a migrants exodus in the cities, and many people walked many kilometers back to their home. So, like having worked on the National Rural Livelihood Mission, so how do you think that SDG 4 can be particularly reinforced in order to make build sustainable villages? Because obviously we see that there is migration of laborers from rural areas to urban areas, from villages to cities, but not the other way around. So how do we make our villages self-sufficient? So because what I believe is that the cities are dependent on the villages, but not in terms of the employment opportunities. So how do you think that we can move forward together and reduce the regional imbalance that has been created over the past few decades?
Sage, very nice. Let me take you down about 20 years back when Dr. Abdul Kalam was our president. He had proposed for a very innovative initiative which is called as PURA. If you go into providing urban amenities in rural areas, PURA. That was a very ideal model of how the village could be strengthened. See, we are not short of so many examples and models which have been advocated over a period of time. Even UN system has also advocated how the village can be properly done. Panchayati Raj system is also thinking of it. Now, thing is, we have to become comprehensive. Why not it? Yes, you just mentioned NRLM. NRLM can be one of the things to support the village. NRLM is confined to the gender SDG movement of the women in the nation, which is today the world's biggest movement. So until and unless we empower our villages, our cities cannot be empowered. Until and unless we make villages more compatible, more easy, things cannot be comfortable. Migration क्यों हुआ? क्योंकि the people at our rural areas don't have jobs. They came to the cities, and when the COVID came, they had to rush back. Again, they're there for a couple of weeks or months. Then they find there is no job. They have to come back. So these things are very complicated. Why can't we say have little industrialization of the not out of villages, but some areas around that? Why can't we have MSMEs grow over there? A lot of things can happen. But I'll go by the basic premise what Dr. Kalam had proposed about 20 years back by the name of Pura. We can always refine it. We can also learn from things. Focus to kare. We do have, we have MP-led program. We have so many programs where MPs and MLAs have got crores and crores of fund to do. We had Adarsh Gram Yojana of the current Prime Minister. Villages have to adopt it, cities have to adopt it. Kya hota uska? Where has the things happened? So see, we have a lot of theories and a lot of schemes on the paper. Accountability kahan? Where is it? That is missing. And that's something very sorry for the issue. For example, I'll just go out of the way and say, when we talk about accountability, why can't we make teachers accountable for the results which he gets from his school, from his classes? Why can't a district magistrate or collector be responsible, accountable for the development or non-development of the his district? Some development accountability has to be built in various phases. Then only the things will become serious. Otherwise, our governance system will always remain very weak and poor and not accountable to any person or anybody in the nation.
All right, sir. We have a few questions from the audience as well.
Yeah.
So if Kava is present in the meeting, I'll request her to kindly unmute herself and ask the question herself.
Hello, sir. I'm Kavya. I'm currently studying MA Social Work specialization in mental health. And I was wondering that how do you think, one second. Are we ready to implement NEP without training the current educators, especially in school and high school, mostly in, government schools or government funded schools?
I didn't get your question complete. Can you come again, please?
So, sir, I was wondering, are we ready to implement NEP with the current educators? Without, are we planning to provide training or what, or without training at all? Are we ready to implement NEP?
Yeah, that's right. I think you pointed out the correct thing. Yes, unless I am mentally sound, our system or my friends, colleagues, relatives, family members are mentally sound, we will not be able to contribute to any cause of the nation. Yes, the new system proposes, yes, we need to be a little more sensitive on this account. That's what they're trying to make it holistic. That is again and again been written in the new national education policy. They would like to make it holistic. They would like to make it comprehensive. Not only sports, yoga will be there, arts will be there, your hobbies will be there. So many things have been built upon it. So they're changing all those outlooks. That's very nice, though very details have not come out. The action points have to yet to be defined. That yes, it has been taken into account, and probably that is there on the board, which the government or the concerned authorities have taken note of.
Yeah. Also, another question that I had was, are we also considering to implement counselors? Because at this point in time, with my own experience and with, schools really do not have counselors, who actively make sure who actually make sure in taking care of the mental health of the students, especially adolescents in school. Okay. And even if a counselor is placed in, in a school, they are not, actively making sure to implement anything in schools. Do you think through NEP, is there a chance of providing better quality of better, a space for counselors to actually make sure mental health and, are we is it are we ensuring promotion of mental health in schools?
I think the national education policy has already heard your point. They knew that you will be asking me this question. And there is a special provision under the education policy. They call it not counselor, but mentors, which will be hired out of the system to guide, help, and nurture at various levels, not only teachers, but also students. So what each mentor will be doing will come out later on. Yes, there's already a unit placed in our new education policy, which says mentoring or taking care of all different players would be one of the responsibilities of the new education system.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for answering that question. I'll also be recognizing people by the raise of hands. But first, Preeti sent me a question privately. The crux of that question is that we learn values of secularism at school. We learn different values, how to respect different castes, different races, and whatnot. But still, on the streets, each and every day, people are killed because of their caste or killed because of the color of their skins and whatnot. So, what role can children as well as teachers play in the same process to ensure a more safer environment and create more awareness and teach more values of secularism in this country?
That's right. I think well said. The point is, from the school itself, we have to make it very clear that my child or the concerned child is well educated. He's made aware of the things, that what are the good points of particular religion. Not bad. Yes, every religion has good points. We have to make them understand. We have to make them more inclusive. If from the very beginning I make him sit or talk or be together with one particular aspect of one religion, then things become a little biased. He has to be exposed. He has to be mentored. He has to be given opportunity to understand and appreciate. Why can't we take the kids to say, Gurdwara jaye, they go to church or temple or a mosque? Why from some things can take place. And the new education policy says that yes, secularism will be also the core of the initiative they intend to take from the schools itself. It is written over there, but how will they do it? That will be coming in the gradual period of time. It has to be done. To be secular, initiation has to come from the very beginning, and there are processes and ways and means. There are tools. There are schools which things can make this click.
Right. Thank you so much for answering that as well. Sahaj, go ahead. We have some questions from the audience. Sahaj, you're not audible. Yeah.
I would request Prachi Shukla to kindly unmute herself.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, Prachi,
please.
Sir, I have two questions. The first is because of the lockdown, all the schools have been closed currently. So even although there is digital education being imparted, but still many of the students are not able to access it. So how will this affect implementation of SDG 4 in India? This is my first question. And the second one was, I'll ask that later.
Okay. See, SDG 4 says quality education. And as you will very well know, Prachi, that quality education, for that, our country is not yet ready with the technology to reach the last mile or last student in the nation. We do not have internet connection in many of the districts, villages, blocks, and so on and so forth. So since the schools have been closed down, yes, it has affected. The lockdown has definitely made impact on across the globe. And yes, especially for the students who do not have access to these kinds of interventions. I'm also told that some states have taken initiatives so that they can give the tablets or something like that or smartphones to students who do not already have that, so that they can continue with their education. To be very brief, we do feel that SDG 4 will be impacted due to this lockdown because bulk of the students in the rural areas are not getting proper education. The time will fly away, but they will be impacted. Some efforts are being made, more are required. That's it. Yeah, that's the first question you wanted.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for that. So the second question, what I wanted to ask was, students, although we learn a lot in the schools, the environment at home has to be conducive to be able to imbibe that schooling. So, for instance, if we learn English at school, we need to be able to practice it at home with our parents or our peers to be able to actually have the confidence to speak that. So, in this regard, I wanted to ask whether the new education policy somehow tackles this question also.
Yes, Prachi, probably I think in my slides I missed it out somewhere. I don't know. One of the very major decisions of the new education policy is to use of vernacular languages. That is one of the best hallmarks of the new policy, which says that we will like to teach almost everybody in their vernacular languages, and the policy says that they would like to start with 22 different languages in the nation. Also in the nation. For that, yes, some preparations have to be done, and it is very wonderful to know that not only this, the government has also given a freedom that we will be working on the 3 language theory for the initial students from class from the day they start in the school till middle school. They will be allowed to work on 3 languages. And again, these 3 languages are not being mandated by the central government. It is left to the discretion of the state or the concerned areas where their students would be. It is being very well said that we say mother tongue, not the school tongue. So the child who is born understands and appreciates the mother tongue to the best. Now that is going to be the medium of education in near future. I think I somehow missed out it in my presentation. the mother tongue or the language which the student appreciates and understands the best has to be the medium of our instructions, which is now very, very well clearly received in the new policy. It calls for hell of a long preparation. We need to have literature, we need to have teachers, we need to have infrastructure. Yes, but that has been called for. And I happened to talk to 2, 3 vice chancellors of very esteemed universities recently, and the best thing they flagged out was this vernacular language wali saab cheez bahut badhiya sir. Because many states we speak only Hindi or Tamil or Telugu, whatever it may be. They feel if we have contents in that language, probably the student will be appreciate the things better. And I said earlier that the kids in the age group of 3 to 6 years or 7 years are the best learners for anything to be taught to them. That's it.
Right. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to recognize Rashmin, who wishes to ask the question. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi,
Um,
Devanshu.
yeah, hi. Please ask your question.
I'm in Washington this side, and I'm currently the Rural Development Fellow with the SBI Youth for India Fellowship. So the question that I've got is, again, with the COVID imposed lockdown, education in rural India usually come to a standstill. However, on the plus side, things have opened up now, particularly in Assam. But students are reluctant to coming back to school. They are more inclined to going to the fields and working with their family, and they feel that that has more value. And currently, I'm working on a project to change their curriculum and make it their curriculum which has more practical knowledge, where they'll be able to imply what they learn practically faster, at the same time make school a fun and engaging place which is welcoming to them, so that they stay in school and continue to learn and grow. So from your perspective and your thoughts, what would you recommend which should be mandated in their curriculum so that they see this holistic growth and they can apply their knowledge practically in a very quick time?
Rashwan, I agree with you that the COVID has put everything into topsy-turvy, and we are all aware that what challenges it has, especially with the students, that too particularly from the rural areas or underdeveloped places of the nation. Yes, the question here comes, Rashwan, is do we have really good, competent teachers or mentors, or whatever you call it, to able to pass on the knowledge or experience or impart the necessary inputs to the students? Probably that is what is I feel is lacking today in the nation. I've been to a number of districts and places in the nation and abroad also. I find our teacher community needs to be boosted up. They need to be made more competent. They need to be made more responsible. Unless they have that required inputs and tools, probably things are not able to come being translated to the ground. Coming to the current situation, yes, if we are not able to come to the classrooms, probably how do I gather the students under a tree and teach them? Whether it can be in small batches or what, it is all question mark from place to place. Then even the parents are not very ready to send their wards to the schools. See, all depends on the local situations. But if there is a good student teacher, he may be able to attract the students to his class in whatever way he feels comfortable today is, whatever way he feels it is safe today, and things can take place. I would like to empower the teachers with more tools and techniques so that in current challenges or the new challenges, probably you could work on this and come out that what could be the new tools and techniques which could be used in most cost-effective manner, in most local perspective, that yes, they are able to pass on the technique to pass on the knowledge to the student. If that is there, I think that will be wonderful. That's what I will look forward to hearing from you if something good we have come out from that.
Thank you for answering that question. Reshwan, do you have a follow-up question as well?
No, just thanks for that. It's a great thought to ponder upon, and we'll definitely let you know how that plays out. Thank you.
I would like to request Lukesh Jain to kindly unmute himself and ask his question.
Greetings of the day to all of you, and thank you, sir, for showering such meaningful insights in this dialogue. I'm Lukesh and part of the national team for the UN 75 consultations. Since we are discussing how important education is in achieving other SDGs, and of course, the NEP is a way forward. Uh, I would like to draw your attention to some of the facts that public spending done by India in the domain of education is around $16 billion. And if we compare it to China, it's more than $400 billion, and US has more than $1 trillion. So how, sir, India should tackle such fiscal limitations in the domain of education system, knowing that it takes world-class facilities, research, and world-class professors to create world-class professionals?
Thank you, Lokesh. I'd like to share some data with you since we are talking on SDGs. So probably I had an opportunity to read through some literature somewhere which indicated then in order to achieve the SDG, the world needs $7 trillion till 2030 to achieve the targets. Not only that, there's a huge gap of $3 trillion directly, which the globe needs to do the things properly. And in India, it will be no less than $500 billion, which we need addition to our budget to get the things moving. So where does this money come from? It's a big question. I leave it to all to ponder upon. Yes, as far as budgetary concerns are concerned, probably I'm not wrong. 2 to 3% is the total budget allocation of our GDP to the education sector. And health also is almost in 3 to 4%, something of that kind. Now, given situation of COVID today, obviously all resources, all priorities, you would agree, the government has to pass on to the health sector. So until unless this 2.6 or 3% of the allocation of the GDP is increased properly, things will not be able to give their results. But one catch I would like to give over here, my experience of 4 decades of serving in the nation is that it is the real utilization of money, effective utilization of the resources is not taking place. Probably if we are able to do that, something wonderful can take place. शिक्षा कर्मी लेकर कितने प्रदेशों में हमारे यहाँ चल रहा है काम, उनको रेगुलाइज नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि पैसा नहीं है. शिक्षा कर्मी आगे कैसी शिक्षा देते हैं ये भी आपको पता नहीं, या आपको हमें पता नहीं. You know very well that in many places शिक्षा कर्मी वो हायर कर लेते हैं अपना कोई बंदा, वही पढ़ाता रहता है. So unless these resources are properly streamlined, some accountability is built into it, then only even these 3% of the total GDP which we are trying to spend on the education will become fruitful, more effective. I, as a person, would request the authorities or the government, there has to be a mechanism to see where is accountability, where is the money being used, what are results coming out, why can't we fix things, why can't we make accountability? So if that comes into play, abhi 3% se to chalte hain, let's see what happens, how does further budgetary allocation takes place. But education ki taraf budget allocation badhna chahiye, that I agree. Yes, Lokesh, thank you.
Sahaj, I think, yeah, please recognize the speaker.
I would like to request Zoom user to kindly unmute himself or herself. Meanwhile, we are waiting for the speaker. I'll ask my question, sir. Sir, like you have worked in the UN system, and you have headed a state. So, sir, recently during the General Assembly itself, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also gave a call for reforming the UN system. So, being a part of the system for like 3 to 5 years, so what changes you think that the system should take, adopt in order to ensure holistic growth and in order to reduce regional imbalance that's been created between the countries itself? When we take a look at the sub-Saharan region or the sub-African region, so we realize that they are lacking back, and other countries like the US or China are moving ahead at a great pace. So how do we ensure that the P5 is also balanced and the SDGs are also being met?
Okay, Saj, let me be a little candid. Okay, though I've been in UN system for very long. Before that, state head of UNDP, I was also there in NRLM as UNDP lead financial inclusion. And what I feel is UN system of the late has lost its relevance to a certain extent. Probably the UN system has not been able to align to the needs of the particular state or the government of the nation. See, what UN advocates may be very good, wonderful, excellent, nothing wrong in it. But what do you need? मैं अलग की बातें करता रहूं और your requirement is something different, then I'm not being a real expert on the subject. Okay, so alignment of the UN expertise or their history or their long, rich experience has to be as per the requirement of the said government, said state governments. अगर ये नहीं करेंगे, then we are making myself a useless expert for you. Okay. Then, of the late, I also feel there has to be more of incisive research. The UN system, especially the World Bank and everybody, is doing a lot of wonderful research with all secondary data. A lot of data churning takes place, and they have got access to wonderful figures across all systems of the information throughout the world. But let us come down to the ground. Let us do something more practical. Well, that is somewhere it is now starting missing. Let's see what the ground is, what it says. It may be saying something good or bad, but let's learn from it. So first of all, make UN system relevant to what my 197 countries, 196 countries want, or specific country wants. What does India want? The UN system, UNDP should be responding to that. That is what I feel is missing. Alignment to the client is something there is missing. And yes, as you said, Mr. Modi, who has been advocating for UN reforms in the sense, not today, India is one of the biggest democracies in the world. And we have been a very reasonable and responsible democracy for the last 75 years or more, and for everybody to see. Why do not we find seat to the UN Council, Security Council? What is there which stops India to be one of the members of the UN Security Council, so that we can be more proactively guiding the international bandwagon for a better world, isn't it? So these things are moving. So UN system has also become little less responsive. It has not been very much aligned to the needs and requirements and priorities of the things. And if you allow me to quote again the Prime Minister, it itself says that probably this COVID-19 was not properly handled by UN system. They wanted to have a little more practical, proactive response from the same. So one has to make themselves relevant. Wo missing hai abhi. But that's my assessment. Not I would say anybody's else. But if that is so, probably we could have been, the UN system could be more being asked for, more being sought for. Yes.
Sir, do you think that moreover, when the pandemic struck the whole world, education was brought to a standstill, and also we were fighting on the health forum as well and education. So, sir, I personally believe that these are two major indicators for ensuring the development of a nation and for a nation to grow stronger. So, where does the UN stand during the pandemic period in order to ensure that the last country in the list is also taken along in the fight during the pandemic?
See, what I believe is, had the UN system or WHO been very proactive or really reactive to this particular thing, you must have heard the news yesterday that the Prime Minister had a meeting on how the delivery of the vaccine will have to take place so that every Indian is inoculated. Okay. Why can't UN system have already done this beforehand? Why couldn't they have thought, okay, some vaccine is going to come in America or say UK, how will it be delivered? For example, India and South Africa have been watching for that. Why can't this intellectual property rights be waived for this COVID-19 as a special case? Why does not even the system come up with it? So they have to come and play some role. They have to come and take the lead. And they are now at the backbenchers. Probably that is what I find is missing. As a UN system, as a US platform, why not come forward and say, yes, this is right or wrong, whatever they say, whatever they feel like, whatever the system says. But one has to be a little proactive. They are not even reactive. That's what I feel. So that thing has to be a little more practical, grounded situation. That's what I miss. And yes, see, when we are all fighting against health, survival, life, education definitely goes back. Then because before that it comes my earnings, livelihoods. If I'm not even able to eat 2 meals, square meals in a day, तो मैं पढ़ाई का क्या सोचूंगा? So those things have to be put into proper perspective.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for acknowledging the fact that UN sometimes just becomes a spectator sort of body, doesn't really intervene as such, right? So my question revolves around the fact that, I mean, how important it is for the United Nations as a body to recognize the loopholes under different SDG targets, because sometimes they aren't, that explanatory. Sometimes there is need for more targets under different SDGs. How important it is for them to recognize the loopholes and bring about some changes.
See, I strongly believe, basically, till I was in UN system, that SDG is today the bread and butter for UN system. They should have come out whole hot work for it. Almost all the 27 departments of the UN system, we have 24 in India which are functioning. whether UNICEF, FAO, UN Women, etc., whatever, they should be working on the SDG system. And please allow me to say, and I'll be request to be pardoned for the same, between the 27 departments of the UN system, still there's no convergence. There's no, they're not talking to each other. They don't have no planning. So why not, if they take, for example, they take India. Yes, we want to work in India for effective means and implementation of SDG. Where are those 24 departments which are operating in the nation coming together in one platform and talking on particular issue? Why not? At least they should take the lead and do it. Just to coming out with a document is not sufficient. If the government of India has come out with vision document, how is it being reviewed? What are the corrective measures being proposed? What are the options being told? One has to come and do something. So that is missing. So just to come out with a good document or research after so much of consultation, follow up. That's what I think is not there. Taking the concerned person on the confidence is not there. Understanding his or her position is not there.
Right, right. Thank you so much for that insightful answer, sir. Before the vote of thanks, I would like to request the remaining attendees to just check out the feedback form that Janvi and Soumya and the team is given in the chat box, right? Please make sure that you fill it. And now I call Janvi to give the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Devanshi. Thank you, sir. It was an insightful session indeed. I, Janvi Sharma, a part of the UN75 CYL team, am here to present the vote of thanks for today's dialogue. I would like to thank our guest speaker, Dr. Rakesh Malhotra, for taking out time from his schedule and enlightening us with his knowledge. I would also like to thank the audience for joining us and for active participation this evening. Thank you, United Nations 75 and Confederation of Young Leaders team, for giving us an opportunity to organize an UN 75 dialogue and generate awareness among the youth on the global goals. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank the team of Sustainable Development Goal 4, Quality Education, and each and every member who contributed to this event this evening. Thank you so much. I request.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I request each and every.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you. So nice. Stay healthy. Stay happy. Bye-bye. Please. Thank you. It was a wonderful discussion. Please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you to the CYL team and everyone for joining in. Thank you.